The playoffs are here. We've got some exciting matchups to look forward to, and also Grizzlies Thunder. I'm hyped for Pistons Knicks, which will hopefully feature some basketball in between the inevitable bench-clearing brawls. Nuggets Clippers will be a fun chess match between two teams headlined by veteran talents with championship pedigree. Houston and OKC will try and overtake the old guard, while the basketball media will try to avoid talking about them. Still, the most exciting story might be the Boston Celtics. After winning their 18th championship last season, they aim to become the first repeat champ since the 2018 Warriors. 2025 was their second 60-win season in a row, but also a year where they abdicated the 1 seed to an upstart Cleveland team. To go back-to-back, they'll need big performances from their top players. They'll need Drew Holiday. They'll need Jaylen Brown. But most importantly, they'll need Jayson Tatum. Today, I want to talk about the man from Missouri. Tatum occupies a really interesting niche in NBA circles that I want to talk about. Undisputed top player in the game, scores in his sleep, fantastic defender, improving passer, but also never a true contender for MVP. He's had some nice finishes, but nobody was taking him over SGA this year, or Jokic the last couple. So what gives? Everyone talks about how the NBA needs a new face of the league. We need a guy with flair, a guy who wins, a guy under 30, a guy who's American, a guy who plays in the big market, a guy who puts up the stats, a guy who won't be in street clothes for the big ESPN doubleheader. So how about Tatum? Well, he doesn't have it. For whatever reason, we can't wrap our arms around the guy. I'd pin this to general Boston parochial vibe. I talked about this a little bit in the 90s video, but their players belong to the Celtics and nowhere else. But it shouldn't explain why it gets disproportionate hate, both online and from the mainstream media. We get told that his team wins with or without him. According to some, he lacks aura, which means something, I guess. But really, what's happening here? Tatum's problem is wholly unique. Generally, when we talk about a player falling short of expectations, it's because their resume doesn't match their talents. We think a guy is capable of taking his team to the finals, then he blows it in round 2. Think about players you know who are incredible but lack a defining playoff run or ring to justify their hype. Tatum's the reverse. His resume is kinda too good for what we expect. He's made 2 finals trips, picked up a ring, and could contend for the next 2 to 4 years based on Boston's carefully constructed Jenga tower of contracts built in fear of the second apron. As NBA fans, we only really like to compliment 2 types of guys: the best and the surprises. We'll celebrate the best guys in the league like LeBron at his apex, or Curry or Kobe once upon a time. Or we'll celebrate the guys that came out of nowhere. Giannis went from a Greek Paul George playing against an 8th grade CYO team to New Age Shaq. Jokic went from second round bench filler to all-timer. Even Luka, highly touted Galactico guy out of Real Madrid, broke the stigma surrounding high lottery Euros. Those are all surprising and seem to rise suddenly. But Tatum isn't either. Did he have generational projections? No, that's why Fultz and Lonzo went before him. Still, he's far from a revelation. Top of his high school class, went to Duke, and steadily rose from nice rookie to all-star to all-NBA. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it stops him from getting the credit he otherwise would. At the draft, his ceiling was a Grant Hill, Carmelo type who could score at will. That's what he's become, but he's been consistently healthy unlike Hill, and has been blessed with a competent front office unlike Carmelo. This means that while his talents are similar to a bit better than those two, he's outpaced both in terms of team success at just 27. So why do we still feel a need to rip on this guy? Well, Tatum's a victim of how we talk about basketball today. The stan culture that's infected NBA Twitter means that we need to rip down one player to build up another. One of the top storylines from last year's finals was that the Celtics were able to triumph despite a quiet series from Tatum. Ditto for the Olympics. This is nothing new for top players. Larry Bird lost out on the 81 Finals MVP to teammate JoJo White. Curry didn't win a Finals MVP until 2023. For Tatum, playing with good players gets marked against him. That doesn't make any sense, but if you have an agenda to push and an algorithm that rewards agenda pushing, that's what you do. That gets reverberated by national media with the same toxic incentives. And we end up with a basketball culture hostile to the thing we claim to need for the survival of the league. But let's junk all that. is there something beyond NBA Twitter that gives Tatum this unique standing? I'm reminded of something I heard on a podcast about Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool side and their underwhelming trophy haul from his time as manager. Statistically, they were the second best team in Premier League history. Unfortunately, they happened to play at the same time as Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, probably the best team in Premier League history. That means they were always runners-up. Tatum's played in a conference with Giannis and a league with Jokic and Luka. In most other eras, he would have picked up an MVP by now based on his team success and his scoring average. Unfortunately, he has to play at a time with these absolute monsters playing incredible year in, year out for half a decade. Being a better version of Carmelo Anthony on the top seed isn't enough anymore, unfortunately. You have to be historically good, or have every single fan in Philly bully the national media into giving you a trophy. We don't have any gimmies like the years Westbrook or Steve Nash won. We're in a great era, and that's been bad for Tatum. So then I guess here's the part where I offer some kind words of wisdom for our lucky guy. So here it is. Don't change a thing. Seriously, even with the upcoming ownership changes and the fallout of the second apron, he's in a great spot. There are so many teams and coaches with impulsive management or owners unwilling to spend, neither of which he has with the Celtics. There's an old quote that it's the deals that you don't make that end up saving you. Mobility has allowed some players to extend their window and compete for longer. For others, it's made them little more than these ghostly husks drifting from team to team. Kevin Durant! Sorry, folks. There were so many times when this Boston team could have blown up, and they've kept things together. A few years back, there were rumors that Tatum wanted to play with fellow St. Louis native Bradley Beal. For the contracts to work, Jaylen Brown probably would have had to be in the deal. The move never went through, and it's pretty clear it was the right decision. Tatum was already a star by this point, and it's not crazy to think that he could have muscled his front office. There are a lot of guys who would have made the wrong move and been stuck on a team with no balance, tons of drama, and then ask out, Kevin Durant! Yeah, I don't really know what's happening, guys. So that's that. Tatum's the antidote to modern basketball. An elite guy who doesn't jive with how we talk about the game today. And you want to know what's wrong with that? Not a damn thing.